In August 2016, the whole family got into the car and went on a road trip. The only problem is that they didn't return from it. Actually, not only did they not return, but also before the trip they left behind their phones, passports, bank cards, everything. They drove away from their house as if they were never coming back. And during the journey, the 5 members of the Tromp family suddenly disappeared one by one, leaving behind a series of inexplicable acts. How could this have happened? What happened to them? Did the family decide to start a new life somewhere else without anyone knowing? Or was there something much darker going on? We may never know for sure what happened to the Tromp family. But there are some theories out there that try to explain how a seemingly normal family in broad daylight decided to abandon their lives and flee into the unknown. This is the story of the Tromp family and their crazy road trip. So who were the members of the Tromp family, and why didn't they get any attention until it was too late? Parents Mark and Jacoba Tromp and their 3 children, Rihanna, Mitchell, and Ella, were living and working on a farm in Sylvan, Australia. Neighbors considered them a normal, hardworking family and couldn't understand what could have driven them to commit such an unusual act. Before the enigmatic road trip, none of the family members had criminal records or history of mental illness, nor were they heavily indebted or facing financial difficulties. So what could have motivated them to make such a drastic decision? Before we get into the mysterious trip itself, take a second to subscribe so that you don't miss the next video. Now let's continue. On August 29, 2016, the whole family got into the car and went on a road trip. The thing is, they never came back, but before the trip, the family had been acting strangely, believing they were being followed and there was a plot against them. To prepare for their journey, they filled up the car at a nearby petrol station, withdrew a large sum of cash, and stocked up on food and water. They then locked their phones and loaded up the car. Their 2 dogs were left in the backyard, and all their phones were left inside the house. According to later reports, the family believed they were being followed, and that someone was trying to hurt them. There were rumors that Mark had received threats over a land dispute, although this was never confirmed. It's possible that this paranoia drove the family to extreme measures. So they left home in their family car and started driving towards the northeast of the state. After hours on the road, the Tromps reached Bathurst, where they abandoned the car and caught a taxi to their next destination, Goulburn. The driver reported that the family seemed normal and friendly, and there was nothing to indicate they were mentally unstable. When they arrived in Goulburn, Rihanna and Ella left the group and took a cab to a local McDonald's restaurant. Mitchell stayed with his parents, who kept moving further to the northeast towards Wangaratta. However, the children didn't stay at the restaurant for long. Rihanna called her boyfriend and told him that she and her sister had had a big fight with their parents and they ran away from home. She asked him to pick them up and bring them back to Sydney. He agreed and soon arrived at the McDonald's. Rihanna got into the car with him, but when he asked where her sister was, she replied that she had run away again and gotten into another car. Then Rihanna started to panic, saying that she didn't want to go back to her parents. Her boyfriend immediately noticed that she was not wearing her glasses and looked very confused. She didn't seem to recognize her sister, her friends, or even her own parents. Meanwhile, Ella returned to the car with her parents and they continued on to Wangaratta, about 300 kilometers away. Along the way, Mark changed into a red t-shirt and the family seemed to be looking for somewhere to hide. At this point, they had no phones to call anyone or money to pay for food or accommodation. It's not clear how they planned to survive. Eventually, they checked into a motel room in Wangaratta. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. Mark and Jacob were seen arguing loudly in the middle of the night. On September 3rd, the couple left the motel and were never seen again. The next day, the motel owner found Ella wandering outside in a confused state. When asked for identification, she said she didn't have any. She was taken back to the motel room, where the police found blood on the sheets and walls, suggesting that she might have harmed herself. The police were concerned for her safety and that of her parents and launched a search effort. At first, she refused to talk to the police, but later revealed that her family had left the motel and gone bush, meaning they had gone into the Australian wilderness. The police were puzzled by this development, as it was unclear why the family would abandon their car and possessions and flee into the bush. Additionally, the fact that they had no money or identification made the situation even more concerning. Ella told the police that her father had bought 2 other cars during their trip, but she couldn't remember their registration plates. She claimed that her parents were acting strangely and that she had witnessed a fight between them. Worried for their safety, the police decided to launch a search operation in the area. In the meantime, Rihanna had returned to her original home in Sylvan, but her parents had no idea she was there. Her boyfriend had brought her back after she was found wandering near the McDonald's. She had no recollection of the previous 5 days and couldn't explain why she had suddenly appeared in the restaurant. Then news of the missing Tromp family spread across the country. Volunteers joined the search efforts as people were genuinely concerned for their well-being. Finally, the police managed to track down Mitchell in a small town near Albury. He had been hitchhiking and staying with different families, claiming that he had run away from home because of arguments with his parents. But his story was inconsistent, and the police suspected that he was hiding something. As the investigation progressed, more pieces of the puzzle fell into place. It emerged that the family had exhibited strange behavior throughout their journey, including abandoning their car and possessions, changing vehicles, and refusing to use money. The police also discovered that Mark had been receiving threatening phone calls related to a land dispute, which may have contributed to the family's paranoia. However, despite these revelations, the motive behind their actions remained unclear. Mitchell was taken into custody for his own safety and that of his siblings. Meanwhile, the police continued searching for Mark and Jacob, who had disappeared in Wangaratta, but they found no trace of the couple. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of the missing parents. The police were baffled, and the community was desperate for answers. One evening, a farmer spotted Mark in his paddock. When the man approached him, Mark seemed confused and asked him to take him to a hospital. The farmer called the police and Mark was taken to the hospital, where he had no memory of what had happened since August. It seemed like he had gone through a traumatic experience and suffered from amnesia. Later, a woman from Myrtleford spotted Jacob walking along the Great Alpine Road. The police were notified, and she was taken to the same hospital as Mark. Like Mark, Jacob had no recollection of the events leading up to his hospitalization. Once the family was reunited at the hospital, they were discharged after being declared mentally fit. However, the reunion was bittersweet as they still had no answers to their bizarre ordeal. The doctors diagnosed them with folie familiale, a rare form of psychosis affecting the entire family. The family was offered counseling, but they declined it, possibly because they didn't fully understand what had happened to them. To this day, the family keeps most to themselves and doesn't speak much about the incident. However, the community is still curious about what really happened to them. Was it a case of general psychosis that caused the entire family to believe in an imaginary danger? Or was it a real conspiracy? The truth is that nobody knows exactly what happened to the Tromp family. But one thing is certain, it's one of the craziest road trip stories ever. What do you think caused the Tromp family to flee? Share your theories below, and that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.